Hello my fellow healers, today we are finally starting our Healer 101 series. In this series we are diving deep into the art of healing in Elder Scrolls Online. Whether you are a new player stepping into the role of a healer for the first time or a seasoned player looking to refine your skills, this series will guide you through everything you need to know to become a great healer and MVP for your team. Today we will cover the concept of healing in ESO, how it differs from other games, what is the best approach to healing, and help you to decide what the healing is for you in the first place. Let's jump into it. Do you like to support your team members? Do you take pride in providing the best conditions possible for your team members to succeed? Do you think that sharing is caring? Do you like to farm sets and hoard them? Are you ready to get blamed for every other death on your team? Are you emotionally prepared to call people out when they stand in stupid? Are you ready for fierce competition for a spot on a team? Well then, healing might be for you after all. To start, let us define what healer role means. In Elder Scrolls Online, healer is responsible for healing team members, providing resources such as stamina, magicka, or ultimate, providing defensive buffs and debuffs, providing offensive buffs and debuffs, performing mechanics that would result in a loss of damage when performed by a damage dealer or a tank, and dealing damage in low-threat scenarios. As you can see, list of responsibilities is quite larger than what you may have seen in other games. Elder Scrolls Online Healer is a hybrid between a healer, utility provider, and sometimes even damage dealer. How does healing work in Elder Scrolls Online? ESO has a global cooldown of 1 second, meaning that you can only cast one skill ability per second, whereas incoming damage may come from multiple sources, and within that 1 second your team members may receive multiple hits of various damage seeking at different fractions of that 1 second. Because of this, it is very important to have means of preemptive healing, since by the time you react to what's going on and your next GCD window opens, your team members might be already dead. Luckily for us, the majority of ESO healing abilities have smart targeting that prioritizes team members that are in need of healing. So common approach to healing would be to lay down all your AoE HUDs and alternate between utility and direct healing abilities while HUDs are active. Wait, direct AoE HUDs, so many new words. Let's describe what kind of healing skills we have access to first. Well, all healing abilities can be classified against 3 categories: direct healing versus healing over time. Direct healing abilities provide one-time burst of healing, and in some cases, those type of healing skills require you to face the target, and in other targets within a certain distance around you can be healed. For example, Combat Prayer, Hasty Prayer, or Twilight Matriarch Heal. Healing over time abilities leave lingering effect that heals your team members over a period of time with a set frequency. Commonly, healing over time abilities stick at 1 second or 2 seconds frequencies, with some skills having 3 or 5 second frequencies. Examples are Illustrious Healing, Echoing Vigor, Radiating Regeneration. And of course, to make things even more complicated, there are hybrid abilities that have both direct and healing over time components. For example, Budding Seeds or Renewing Undeath. Single target versus area of effect abilities. Single target abilities apply to 1 and sometimes 2 or 3 team members and remain with them in case they are also a HUD. For example, Bursting Vines, Radiating Regeneration, or Breath of Life. Area of Effects abilities apply to 6 members at a time, and AoE healing over time abilities can also dynamically change targets every tick to heal up group members that are in need of heals. For example, Illustrious Healing, Combat Prayer, Renewing Undeath, and Budding Seeds. Ground versus targeted. Ground healing abilities leave lingering effect on the ground that applies to the allies who step into them. For example, Illustrious Healing, Extended Ritual, Budding Seeds. Targeted healing abilities apply to the individual targets who meet the conditions of the ability at the time of casting. Normally, it would be a range, and examples would be Echoing Vigor, Combat Prayer, Radiating Regeneration. Each healing ability can be classified against all 3 of those classifications. For example, Combat Prayer is a direct area of effect targeted ability, while Illustrious Healing is a ground area of effect healing over time ability. And now let's see where you can get those healing abilities from. Well, first and foremost, Restoration Staff skills. Primary weapon designed for healers in Elder Scrolls Online is Restoration Staff. Restoration Staff skill line has some of the strongest healing abilities in game and passive that serve healers well, increase healing in various scenarios, and improved magicka sustain. Each class will have at least one of each: class healing over time, single target burst heal, and AoE burst heal. In addition, each class will have skills and passive that provide group utility or help with healing, such as class minor and major buffs and debuffs for the group, ultimate generation passives, sustain passives, and set of passives that improved healing. Progression in guilds and alliance war grants additional skill lines that provide more options for healing and group utility, such as Undaunted, Mage's Guild, Fighter's Guild, Assault, and Support. Now let's look into building your character. Well, first and foremost, when you create new character, you would have to decide on race. And in the Elder Scrolls Online, any race can perform well as a healer, with some races making it much easier and more effective. And key race passives to be on the lookout for would be sustain, offensive stats such as maximum magicka, spell and weapon damage. For example, Breton offers excellent sustain and survivability along with large magicka pool, and it's a great option for being a primary healer on a group. Altmer and Dunmer provide excellent offensive stats that boost both damage and healing output, and they are great for a healer/DD hybrids. Argonian, Khajiit, or Imperial boast sustain, slightly lower sustain than what Breton has, and healing output passives. All three sacrifice some of all of the offensive resources pools for maximum health, so they are more survivable but less effective in their healing. Keep in mind that a race choice is reversible, so if you do not like your race later down the road, you could always either purchase a race change token in Crown Store or create an alternative character in a different race, because ESO is pretty alt-friendly game. Now, next thing that you would have to decide is what class to choose for a healer. While meta healer classes change depending on the patch, play as you want mantra of ESO applies here. Any class has access to healing and group utility abilities, and any class can perform in any role well. However, depending on the meta, some classes are more likely to be chosen as healers on the team than the others. And usually logic is not because they heal better, but because when they DD or a tank on a group, they are not effective at that role. So basically, if you're just joining the game and starting, do not chase the meta, but do be prepared to create a couple of the alternative characters if you want to step into more competitive endgame raiding afterwards. For now, all you need to know is that Warden has strongest defensive utility of classes and has been jailed in healer role for patches and patches on end, while every other class has been a choice for healing except Dragon Knight, just because Dragon Knight tank is such a good tank. Class choice of ESO is not reversible, meaning your character will be the class going forward and there is no way of changing that. However, you can always make an alternative character in a different class because, again, ESO is alt-friendly. Next up, once you created your character and started leveling it, you would have to decide what kind of attributes to invest in. Commonly, healers utilize magicka abilities more than stamina, hence healers would commonly put 64 points in magicka, meaning that everything goes into your magicka pool. Some classes have capacity to use stamina as a primary pool, for example, Staggered Dragon Knight or Warden Stam Healer Hybrid. Those would not be considered as beginner builds, and we will leave them out for now. If you happen to misplace some of your attributes, you can always visit the Rededication's shrine in one of the major cities and pay a little bit of gold to respect your attributes. Now, next thing that is important to pick for your character is what kind of Mundus Stones they will use. Mundus Stones provide various bonuses to your stats and therefore can aid in healing output or defense or offense, and due to variety of roles that healer can perform in Elder Scrolls Online, we will have to be using various Mundus Stones for various roles, and it's pretty easy to switch from one to another. You just have to approach one of the Mundus Stones and interact with it. For us, Ritual provides outright top healing potential, and it will result in the highest healing tooltip as compared to any other Mundus Stones, and this one is a very good for HPS races, such as some of the endgame hard mode encounters. Thief results in higher critical chance, making both healing and damage dealing skills crit more often, and it synergizes well with healing/DPS hybrids that we will be using a lot in 4-man content, as well as some of the less dangerous in-game PVE content. Steed Mundus Stone is a great option for fights that require mobility because it has both speed and health recovery that comes in handy on various kiting roles, for example in VCR on a kite healer or in VS on group healer role. It does not offer any healing boost whatsoever. Now let's get to my favorite part, gearing up. As gear cap in Elder Scrolls Online is 160 CP, meaning that your character doesn't loot maximum possible gear until they reach that point, it really doesn't make much sense to invest into sets until then. You could, however, start unlocking a sticker book for those sets to have access to them as soon as you reach CP 160. In the meantime, you could opt for crafted sets, and there are plenty beginner guilds where master crafters help new players to craft gear to kickstart their game. As a beginner healer, you are looking for combo of sustain, offensive stats, and ability to level quicker. So you could go for something such as 5-piece Seducer body armor, 5-piece Hatril Conqueror, 2 body armor, weapons, and 1 piece of jewelry. If you plan to upgrade those items, start with the weapons because they usually give you better improvement per upgrade item spent. Do not waste gold upgrade materials on low-level sets unless you plan to reuse them for multiple characters. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of your money. Weights, traits, and enchants would be for armor. Have at least one of each weight on the body armor to unlock and level respective armor skill lines. To maximize armor resistances, heavier weights should go on larger pieces. For example, you could have 5 light gloves, belt, boots, shoulders, and pants, 1 medium helmet, and 1 heavy cuirass. Traits would be all training to help you level faster, and enchants would be maximum magicka for bigger magicka pool that increases your damage and healing output. For jewelry, you would have arcane to further increase your maximum magicka pool, and enchants would be magicka recovery to help it sustain. For weapons, main weapon would be restoration staff. In training would absorb magicka enchant. Again, your sustain is very bad when you are low level. And secondary weapon will be distraction staff. In training would berserker enchant to increase your damage done. Now that we know what kind of abilities and build options we have at our disposal, how do we maximize our healing potential? Here are the tools that you can use for your advantage. Strategically place ground area of effect healing over time abilities such that they cover majority of your team members. If you have any, refresh single target healing over time abilities to cover each team members. And then fill the rest of your free time with direct heals, also called burst heals. Healing over time abilities will provide healing on demand as they will top up the health of your team members when they take damage, while burst heals will allow you to react to bigger blows. In addition, burst heals often come with auxiliary buffs that can improve damage or survivability of your team members. More about that later. To help yourself to keep up with the hot timers, you could design a rotation, a predefined order in which you will be casting your skills. This rotation can be memorized, where you will be able to use it while not putting too much thought into it and being able to focus on what's going on around you and perform various mechanics. And do not forget to rearrange skills on your bars in a way where skills that you use more often are easier to reach and skills that last longer are in harder to reach location. Here is an example of bar layout and a beginner rotation for Warden Healer. As you can see here, we are maintaining illustrious healing and budding seeds on the ground, and we are maintaining buff from our expansive cloak, and then we are filling remainder of the time with radiating regeneration and combat prayers while heavy attacking to keep our resources up, because as a beginner healer, again, our sustain is not that great. To memorize the rotation and make it your second nature, you could practice every day for about 10 to 20 minutes on a dummy for 1 or 2 weeks, depending on how fast you learn. And after 1 or 2 weeks, you will be able to repeat it without thinking about it very much, and you will be able to face more challenging content as a healer. The next step would be to start incorporating damage, buffs, and debuffs into your rotation, because along with keeping team members alive, healers in Elder Scrolls Online are responsible for maintaining buffs, debuffs, and contributing towards the group damage, making the role unique and fun. So start incorporating damage, skills, buffs, and debuffs, few skills at a time, to ensure you are able to keep up before taking on more responsibility. And this is something you should start doing early into your progression so that you are getting used to the role. And for now, as a beginner healer, just start with simple one of the class damage over time abilities plus blockade from your distraction staff skill line, and keep it up along all the rest of the HUDs to contribute towards your team damage and being able to progress through content. This is all I have for today for the beginner healer guide, and stay tuned for the next guide in a session that will cover intermediate healer builds, tips, tricks, champions point progression for healers, and what kind of sets should you be farming. As always, if you found this video informative, please like and subscribe, and I wish you best of luck in your Tamriel trial adventures.